on June 19th, you released your, I believe, your fourth album, Wajia. Tell me a little bit about this album. Tell me about the writing process and what you guys hope to accomplish with the album.
Well, it's actually our third album. We had a demo out before that.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, it's all good. I think what the main thing I was trying to embrace with making this record was to capture what this group of 5 people sound like, because we had been working together for a while, but we didn't have any recorded material of this lineup. And these songs just kind of started coming together, and they just sounded so full of life and so much better with this lineup that I was like, yes, let's do this. So that, for me personally, that was like the main drive, is like, how do we make an Eye of Nix record that sounds like what we sound like and make it sound as good as possible? That's kind of what my main thing was for it.
I would say, we had a couple of songs that kind of had a little bit of their origins, or a good portion of their origins, that were still being worked on when we were forming the new lineup. And so it was kind of like we had this really great place to jump off from there. And then once we started really getting into it and writing together, then the rest of the album just really started to get written really quickly. And when we decided to work with Michael Zeck as a producer and to record the album, and we set some dates and timelines and everything, then we really hit all of these songs really hard. We played most of them out at least a few times, and some of them we played quite a bit before going into the studio. But there was one song on this album that we were still kind of writing a little bit of it in the studio, and I feel extremely confident about that song, and I think that it turned out even better than I could have imagined, because during that time we had like 6 or 7 people in the studio. We had the band members obviously, but also engineer and assistant engineer to kind of be there just for the last little finishing touches. And I feel great about the whole recording process. I thought it was the best experience that I've had so far in my music career.
Plus, I really liked how there's like 3 or 4 different styles. So we end up playing with a lot of different bands, from either black metal to doom to, weird prog and grind. So it's like we have like a whole deck of cards to pull from when we want to play a certain type of set list now. And sometimes it might confuse people, but to me, I think it's like a win for us.
Do you cater your set lists to whichever band you might be with or playing with?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's going to be a great setting, a great experience to play some of the more softer pieces. It's just going to be more appropriate there, or depending on the venue. Some venues, it's never going to be quiet enough to play a song like Adrift live, because you're always going to hear lots of shit coming out from the street or whatever. So we just are able to curate the sets, I would say.
So let's get back to the recording of the album. You mentioned working with Michael Zeck. Tell me why you chose to work with Michael.
Because he wanted to work with us. And several of us really loved the work that he did with Ruins of Beverast. And then he sent me his, in the last Secrets of the Moon record too, but he sent me the most recent Secrets of the Moon record, and I was like, if you just combine all of the things that he's been doing in the last few years, I was like, this is what I want our album to sound like. And, Zach was totally into the idea, and these guys and Masaki, we all just agreed, like, this is going to be a great option for us.
In addition to Michael Zeck, the album was mastered by James Plotkin. Plotkin's got too many too many credits to list, but I think readers of my blog will know me as a really big fan of his band Old. Tell me how Plotkin got involved with this.
Well, our bass player Zach, he has his own band called Hissing, like a death metal, like an experimental death metal band, and they had just worked with him on mastering their record, and they had a lot of things that would be kind of difficult to tackle on the mastering end, and it turned out great. So, I've worked with a few different mastering engineers, and we just decided that James would have. He just seemed to have a lot of experience dealing with albums that have a huge dynamic range. So that's what we really wanted to work with him.
And having his name attached to didn't hurt either. I love a lot of the stuff he's mastered, especially a lot of the synthesizer stuff and some of the crazy metal.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, if you could work with him, why not,
Yeah, and it wasn't that expensive. He was very well a decent price for what we got out of it.
Tell me about the title Ligeia and what it refers to.
So when I was working on finding like the lyrical thread between all of the songs, I really felt like the mythology of the siren was something that was really personal to me, having nothing to do with being a singer or anything like that. This is totally separate, but I just feel as though, all of us, or at least people in our lives, if not us ourselves, have been, and people in general are just very easily lured in by things or deceived by things. And I feel like sometimes when you're going through like really, really difficult times in your life, something can seem like it's just going to be an amazing escape, an amazing way out, and it's a lot of times it's just not true. There's very destructive forces in the world, and I feel like people are easily taken in by them. And I felt like that's kind of the picture that I was seeing from what I was exploring lyrically, and I just kind of moved forward with that idea through to the end.
When you say that there's a thread through the lyrics, would you describe Ligeia as being a concept album?
Well, I think that the songs all stand on their own individually, but it's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like if you are walking through the woods and you see like there's a path there. It doesn't have to be a path if you don't want it to be, but you could look, if you just kind of zone out on it for a minute, you'll see there's definitely a path. But on this album, more than any other of our previous ones, I definitely was trying to intermesh some of the songs lyrically and with little melodic elements as well, kind of like an internal rhyme idea, but with the musical themes.
There is a video for the song Concealing Waters, which is the first song on the album. Tell me a little bit about the concept behind the video.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, okay. So, in knowing that Ligeia refers to the sirens from Greek mythology, that was the first thing I thought of when I watched the video, because water and rivers are a big part of the video and a recurring theme within the video, and the narrative, if you want to call it that, centers on a couple women, and so that was the connection I made. I don't know if that was the concept that you wanted or intended.
Yeah. So basically, I have the idea that there was this kind of idea that if you go searching for this mysterious river of Lethe, then you may come across. You're basically going in search of it in order to erase memories, in order to wash away memories. And when you go in life to try to erase your memories or try to drown them, usually what ends up happening is you end up having to confront a lot more things than you think you will. And for me, the story of the wanderer in the forest is basically like the older version of yourself and the younger version of yourself will become entwined in some way. And, you know, drinking from the river is not really going to, it's not going to transform. You're still going to be, you know, she's still going to be herself, was kind of the way we looked at it. But what we really wanted to do with the video was to leave it very open to interpretation. So there's definitely the siren myth is there. There's also this kind of more personal viewpoint, and there's also kind of a modern fairy tale with the old witch and the young wanderer, you know. So I worked with my creative team, and we kind of came up with this concept. It would be like a new folk tale.
And Joy, you were involved in the production aspects of the video, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that part of putting the video together with the director?
So I wrote out a script, and then I consulted with Anima Nocturna, who's also the person who we've been working with for the last 2 albums on our album art. And I've worked with him on other projects as well, including other albums and other live performances, like installations and things like that. So I worked with him on, you know, how will we bring this idea to life visually? And then we consulted with the director. We had production meetings with the director about, you know, where do we want to film, light, you know, daylight, all different kinds of technical things that happen. But I found one of the filming locations, and then our director found another filming location. And I worked on, you know, basically I came up with a lot of concepts for like costuming and props, and then worked with Anima Nocturna for sourcing a lot of props. He has a lot of personal items as well, and we utilized items from our mothers and aunts in order to, and from my own life, actual items that I took from my mother's house, and we worked those into the design as well.
Can you tell me the meaning behind the curved knife that appears in the video?
Yeah, that's an item that belongs to him, and maybe if you interview him, he could tell you more.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because I'm based in Malaysia, and we have a curved ceremonial dagger called a crease, which is very similar to that